Hey, and welcome back to Without a Doubt the podcast, a place where we celebrate living life authentically and organically as ourselves. We're the ones breaking cycles, making waves, and being the truest versions of ourselves. I'm your girl Mad, your host, a freelance entrepreneur, a cycle breaker, and a human being that has never exactly done what was expected of me. I'm here to remind you that it's okay to live life differently. Now, you don't have to do what is expected of you. Your happiness, it matters. For a few years, I had something I did called Coffee Wednesdays. It was a group of women I knew who got together and would invite other people to come. We would mingle, chat, business, life, womanhood, all the things. At first, this was something I really enjoyed doing until the numbers started getting smaller and smaller, and I became the sole person showing up. I was the only person confirming plans, and sometimes I would actually be all by myself at Coffee Wednesdays. I always had this in my weekly plans until I started noticing this wasn't as important to the other women that were supposed to be showing up with me and committing to our coffee dates. No one was even reaching out to say, hey, are we doing it this week? I eventually let Coffee Wednesdays die out, and that faded into the abyss because I valued my time and I had self-respect. I also know that nothing is forever. Another podcast is coming out about that soon, but I had to let this little morning mingle of coffee chats, I had to let it go because I valued my time and myself more than sitting around waiting for maybe someone to come to coffee. When I realized I was the only one in my group actually making the plans, that was another realization. I was like, I can't be the only one holding this group together. I could feel my self-esteem taking a hit when I was bailed on last minute. And this took a hit to my self-respect on my own time and what I wanted to put out. Knowing what I was offering those mornings that wasn't really being received or the way I wanted or expected started slashing some notches into how I actually view myself in the regards of self-respect. How many times have we let people cancel on us before we're finally like, okay, this is the last time? Or how many times do we ask for help over and over and then we see it's just not happening before we just do it somewhere else? Self-respect is pride and confidence in oneself. It's the feeling that one is behaving with honor and dignity. Self-respect is loving yourself. It's treating yourself with care. It's the result of staying true to your values. Have you ever said to yourself, I respect myself too much to do blank, 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 or I have enough self-respect to know I didn't deserve that? There are moments that I have said this to myself, or maybe you're actually like, no, I've never said that. I don't feel like I even know what self-respect I have. Well, this is the episode for you. Or if you were saying that, you might be nodding your head in agreement with this because I think self-respect is a really important topic. It's something that, for me, this is with my Coffee Wednesdays. I knew I had enough self-respect that I could use my time and energy better into other places and purpose in my life. I've also done a few temp jobs, and I think this is a really great story. There was a time that Kendra and I got to work together. We did all these temp jobs. One of them was working for the Miami Dolphins and doing the retail store. If you've ever done any temp work, you kind of know a lot of the managers in those places treat the staff like they're less. You're usually hired for a day or just a few weeks. Well, if you don't know how the temp world goes, that's exactly it. They just treat you like you're less than. And on this specific day, we had gone into work in the retail store, and as soon as I got there, we were instructed to find the manager. Let's call her Mrs. Wanda, and we let her know who we were. We were from so-and-so agency, and she was very dismissive. She was rude, actually, brushed us off, and was told, just go stand over there. Well, I always have to go to the bathroom. I always have to pee. So I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom before we start this. And when we were in the bathroom, I was telling Kendra, I'm like, you know what? Like, let's just clock out and go. Like, I don't need this job. I have too much self-respect. Like, fuck it. Let's dip. But we didn't. Working with Kendra is usually like the little angel on my shoulder. And she's like, we're already here. Like, and we have great work ethic. So let's just show her how badass we are. And we have enough self-respect not to quit for this kind of stuff. So we just bossed it out and worked. Sure enough, the shift ends and the next game rolls around and we get an email requesting Kendra and I to work in her store. Do you think that we went back to work for Mrs. Wanda? Hell no. I was laughing. It was hysterical to me that she wanted us to come back because at first she was so dismissive, but as she realized as the night went on, Kendra and I were actually very intelligent. And not just that, we can do the jobs. capable, more than capable, honestly. And a lot of times these temp people aren't as capable. I get it. That's why a lot of these people do temp work. At the end of the day, we ended up declining the invite to come back and work in the retail store. Why? Because her mistreatment and lack of respect was just a huge turnoff. Any managers who treat you while you're working anywhere like you are a peasant, I always think in my mind, like, I can't change that manager. I'm not working here for full time, but I think to myself, those managers need to go back to management classes. So maybe my self-respect is knowing, like, you know what, Madison, I know you can do a better job. I know you can do this. This person might be treating you this way at this job, but you don't have to come back. A reminder to all managers, a little reminder to you, a little respect to others goes a long way. And it goes a hell of a lot further to someone who has self-respect for themselves. Self-respect and self-esteem are also different. I had a conversation with someone the other day about this, and I just was like, this is great. Self-respect and self-esteem are also different. One, you know what you will or won't tolerate, and one is what you tend to think about yourself based off of what you've heard about yourself. Self-respect is a positive self of oneself, where self-esteem is more like feelings towards oneself based off the input or criticism, and a lot of times self-esteem is like a negative thing. It's a positive thing. You can have positive self-esteem, but a lot of times it's like you have low self-esteem. And your self-esteem is one of those things, it fluctuates, where self-respect is a place you hold yourself to. I love that about self-respect. It is like, it's where you lie. Here are some of the examples of actions that might actually build your self-respect. And I think this is great. Earning your money successfully and honestly, without harming anybody else, without going against your own ethical values or morals, like doing what feels right to you. Making money your terms, your way. Doing things that help others is what's going to help you build self-respect, and it gives you the confidence to make money moves and better purposeful life decisions. Also, calming ourselves and speaking to someone with care, even if we're upset and angry. The way we talk to ourselves, the way that we talk to others is really important. Hi, it's me. I am working on this, and this is why I think this is an important one to talk about. These podcast episodes are really also about, like, me and what I'm experiencing in my life and how I feel I need to share. I am not perfect, and I know that, and I have my flaws, right? I know I have a lot of expectations, especially for others. Hello, I made a whole podcast episode about the realities of expectations because I myself am working through that stuff. But I think, like, I am human. I have faults, and I do feel awful when I maybe speak down to someone or I have an expectation for someone and then I'm a little bit like, what the fuck? And I have done this to my own partner. Sorry, Kendra, we talk about this. I am working on this. I have done this. I will tell you firsthand, it also doesn't feel good to do this. I think back about it and I'm like, wow, I take accountability. Like, I shouldn't have done that. I will tell you firsthand, this does not help your self-respect. Learning to speak to others on an equal understanding level is truly a quintessential part of having the utmost respect for yourself. In those moments when we haven't exactly made the good choice and we aren't really proud of ourselves, self-respect drives us to choose differently, making better decisions. We can take new actions, we can create better outcomes for ourselves, and we can set us up for a path to recover on maybe a positive sense of actually who we are. This is how we end up dealing with the sad, disappointing, or embarrassing moments of our lives. Going through the process is super important for our mental well-being because it gives you a place and a way to rebuild that positive sense of self, and it helps you move through unpleasant emotions. When you feel embarrassed or shame or guilt, we all have those. We are all human, but if you can have a level of self-respect, you can work in a manner to find a better path for yourself, period. Self-respect also walking away from things that no longer serve you. Friendships, jobs, partners, careers, situations. Knowing it's time to move on when you've outgrown is mad self-respect. It's such a hard decision. This isn't you not caring. You probably care more than you should, and it's one of those things that's like making you think, is this an irrational thought to walk away from? But I always think about, like, are you weighing out your pros and cons? Does this serve you? Is it fulfilling you? Is this part of your purpose? And do you ask yourself, like, eventually, when is enough enough? Walking away is important. Quitting is hard. Doing all the things. But I think it's important to talk about quitting in this too, because your self-respect is like, how long do you hang on to something for before Like I said, enough is enough. I think it's really important to talk about. For some reason, this is a very well sought out question on Google. Self-respect to walk away. A lot of human beings apparently are really struggling with this. And I think, is it the fear or the guilt or the shame that we are so hell-bent on that thought? Like, we're going to let somebody else down or let ourselves down, or are we just so fearful? What is it? I know, like, I myself have also had a handful of things I've had to walk away from. I know my self-worth. Self-worth runs super deep into self-respect. Knowing the ins and outs of who you are is super crucial. Respecting yourself enough to walk away from things that don't actually serve you anymore is so important for your well-being and growth. And it can be so challenging, but it can actually lead you into a more fulfilling and authentic life. Walking away can also signify that you deserve respect and that you are willing to set boundaries. Knowing that walking away isn't actually failure, or that learning that you can quit, leave, or end something that isn't propelling you into a better life is the truest version of self-love, and learning that is really the self-respect. This may be the hardest part, like I said earlier, in self-respect, knowing that it no longer serves you and allowing that end to come near. Ending those toxic cycles is how you're going to harness the truest magic and leaning into self-respect. How about somebody with the lack of self-respect? Typically, a person with low self-esteem is extremely critical of themselves. They'll downplay or ignore their positive qualities. They'll judge themselves to be inferior to their peers. They'll use negative words to describe themselves, such as stupid, fat, ugly, or unlovable. And a lot of times this runs parallel with insecurities. Having confidence is the secret sauce to self-respect. Being insecure usually allows you to beat yourself down, which will never give you the necessary tools to rise to the occasion when you need to be there. Let's talk about a few ways to find some self-respect. One, you really need to get to know yourself. For example, what makes you happy? What makes you feel like you have value in life? And be real with yourself, knowing when you need to take accountability, responsibility, owning up to who you are, when you need to reroute, when we need to take personal responsibility for our actions, or when we need to give ourselves a little chance to create better outcomes like that we can actually be proud of. I was recently talking to one of my friends, and she's really unhappy. She was really unhappy in her job, and she's like, I need to get real serious about what I want in life. Like, I want to be happier, and her job was not fulfilling her, and she decided to quit. And she's doing something else, and she's working and doing other things to find happiness in her life. And I think that was the ultimate step up into the self-respect. Like, I am not happy where I am, and I know I can be a happier human being. I have self-respect. Let's go. So you go, Lindsay. That was my shout out to you, boo, because I'm really proud of that. I think it's really hard to live an authentic life. So if you are doing it, I get it. I'm here. Thanks for listening. We are here. Let's also talk about number 2, practicing saying no. If you are here and you are a people pleaser, this is you needing to learn your boundaries. Or if you're like me and I have firm boundaries. Everybody needs to be able to learn how to stand their ground. You can still be a good person and say no. Be like a palm tree, stand your ground, but be a little bendy if needed, okay? You can drop some fruit here and there and share with the world the things that you have, but stand your ground. Be a damn palm tree. 3, let's also try to avoid comparing ourselves to others. We're not doing that anymore. It is the thief of joy. Is that the quote? Comparison is a thief of joy? True story. No one is living your story, by the way. It's yours. Your trials, your tribulations are what give you the power to actually find your self-respect. The things you have done and allowed, or what you have or haven't given space to, are what you need in order to know what you value in each of your own ideas of self-respect. Do something nice for yourself, filling up your own cup. I say this often, fill your cup so you can pour into others. Know what keeps your cup overflowing and keep it going. When we stop finding a fulfilled life, we start to lose self-respect for ourselves, knowing we aren't living up to what we're actually capable of. Real lasting pride and happiness comes from knowing you have acted in line with your values, treating yourself and others with care and dignity. And by the way, if you aren't finding the evidence you want when you reflect on your actions, you have the power to be who you want. That is in your control. You can change things. We are all human. We all have our flaws, our errors, our moments of weakness. We also have the ability to rise up from the darkest moments. We can tap into life in the unexpected parts of who we are. And most importantly, we can evolve ourselves into who we want to be, who we aspire to be. Self-respect is the key element in being able to crack the code for success. Knowing our value and self-worth contribute to how and what we put out into the world. If you got this far into the episode, I hope you've given my show a rating at some point because I love you for listening always this far. That means you're a real MVP. Is it MVP? VIP? They're both things, right? That are important. Anyway, if you got this far into the episode, I hope you know that I appreciate you so much. You are the real. And I hope you can give me a rating on any of the streaming services you listen. I hope you look forward to these podcast episodes, and I hope you know that you are also, without a doubt, a badass. Don't you forget it, and if you do, I will be here next Wednesday to remind you again. Thanks for being here. As always, XOXO, your girl Matt.